Hi friends, welcome back to the Weekly Tweak, the show that has officially been getting hateful comments on social media. It's happening, guys. We're getting somewhere. This week, once again, the fuzzy orange on TV said the first words that popped into his head.
And I say, why is it we only take people from shithole countries, right? Why can't we have some people from Norway, Sweden, just a few? Let us have a few.
This was in reference to Trump's permanent pause on third world migration. I'm not sure why he specifically wants Nordic countries to start immigrating here, but my theory is that he wants to normalize white people with braids. White people coming to the US just like back in 1492 when we forced all those natives off their land. Good thing we won't be doing that part again. Oh wait. The prairie band Potawatomi Nation are facing outrage from fellow Native Americans over plans to profit from another forced removal. Yep, someone in the tribe in charge of handling business deals, usually for things like government funding and whatnot, very quietly signed a $30 million deal with the Department of Homeland Security that would allow them to start designing ICE detention centers on their land. Of course, the second that the rest of the tribe found out, they rallied, got the deal negated, and got the guy in charge of the whole fiasco fired. We couldn't find a specific name anywhere of who signed the deal, so if you know who to point a finger at, please comment below. We're trying to get more viewer engagement. But if I've learned anything from horror movies, it's that you don't fudge with Native American land. And if I've learned another thing from horror movies, it's that photos always have a deeper meaning. And the world just got a huge photo dump from the Epstein files, and we're not actually allowed to show a good portion of them, but we can show you this one featuring Dean Kamen, the inventor of Segways, on the left. And despite Kamen potentially being part of Epstein's circle, we had absolutely no luck in finding a picture of Jeffrey Epstein riding a Segway. What's even the point of having the person who invented Segways on your private island if you're not going to host Segway jousting matches? There were lots of other people in these photos too. Woody Allen, Steve Bannon, Larry Summers, Woody Allen, Prince Andrew, Alan Dershowitz, Bill Clinton, Woody Allen. It's a lot of Woody Allen. But to be honest, these photos are not as informational as people had hoped. They were all clearly cherry-picked in the hopes of taking the government conspiracy edge off, but if anything, it just makes us want more. And as wonderful as it is to have this photo of Epstein in a tub, I know there's more. The air has not been cleared at all. But the air in New York is. Remember when New York started that whole congestion pricing thing in January and we got classic interviews from extremely wealthy people such as this?
While I disagree with it for many reasons, for me in particular, it really hits home because I live right here on 61st Street in this building, and my car is right there, parked in front of my building. And if I want to go to turn around to go uptown to visit my kids who live on 79th Street, I have to pay $9 to go around the block because this is a one-way street, and that's a one-way street, and that's a one-way street, and there's no way for me to get uptown without going around the block and paying $9.
Before I get to my point with congestion pricing, I just wanted to put Andrew here's story into perspective. I went on Google Maps and found the apartment building he lives in, next to the Pierre Hotel on 61st Street. Andrew lives in a luxury high-rise building with rent starting at $3,400 a month. He is also a 3-minute walk away from the nearest train station. Also, 79th Street is only a 20-minute walk from 61st. It's actually typically faster to walk or take the train than to drive that distance in New York. Andrew, I know what you pay in rent. Do what Jeffrey Epstein was too scared to do and buy a Segway, and then you don't need to pay congestion pricing or walk. Anyway, as mad as everyone got, it turns out it was worth it. The $9 daily toll correlated with a 22% drop in small airborne particles within Manhattan's congestion zone. So yeah, it's a good thing. Now to make the air a little less clear and then clear again, as clear as I can make it, we're going into our next segment. It's a big world after all. Honduras, I'm home. Honduras, the country of coffee and rainforests. It's also the first place to ever be called a banana republic, which is in fact an actual term and not just a clothing store. But currently, Honduras is the place of a lot of political unrest. You may have heard that President Trump pardoned someone named Juan Orlando Hernandez, and that it's a big deal for some reason. We here at the Weekly Tweak wondered what the big deal was, and oh boy, are you in for a story worthy of at least 2 Netflix original series and a true crime documentary. We're going to start in 2011 when the Liberty and Refoundation movement was founded, Libre for short. It was started by Manuel Zelaya, a former president of Honduras, who was dragged out of office during the 2009 coup d'etat after Zelaya wanted to include a 4th ballot box at the next election to vote on amending the constitution, including changing presidential term limits. It's also rumored that the Honduran government wanted Zelaya out due to his relationship with Hugo Chavez, the then president of Venezuela. If you don't know much about Chavez, basically, he actually did a lot of good for Venezuela as far as providing funding for the poor and lowering poverty rates, but he did it in kind of a dictatorship kind of way, so it was a bit polarizing. Moving on, Libre, the leftist movement started by Zelaya, worked tirelessly to get their preferred candidate in office, and in 2021, they succeeded and helped Xiomara Castro get more than 50% of the votes. Castro, fun fact, is Zelaya's wife, a true power couple. Unfortunately, Castro was not the savior that the working class of Honduras thought she'd be. She had promised transparency and failed to deliver on priorities like fighting corruption and pushing drug traffickers out of politics. One of the first things she did was push for a broad amnesty for people put in confinement during Zelaya's presidency. This goes against everything the Libre movement stands for. Then, in 2021, she announced that she was going to end the extradition treaty with the United States. The treaty had been in place for over a century, and since 2014, 64 Hondurans have been extradited to the US, largely on drug trafficking charges. Among those was former President Hernandez. An extradition treaty means that Honduras can send drug traffickers to the US for legal punishment. So Castro at this point is openly going against every reason Libre voted her in for. But after talking with the Trump administration, Castro posted this on X. I announced that I have reached an agreement with the new American administration so that the extradition treaty will continue with the necessary safeguards for the state of Honduras. So those extradited remain in US prisons, except for Juan Orlando Hernandez, who Trump pardoned just a couple of weeks ago. But who is this Hernandez guy anyway? He was the Honduran president between Zelaya and Castro's terms. Hernandez was actually president for 2 terms. In the US, that is pretty normal, but in Honduras, that is constitutionally banned. A president cannot be reelected, but during his first term, Hernandez made an amendment to the Constitution to change that rule. Just a reminder, Zelaya tried to do a similar thing just a few years earlier and was literally dragged out of office for it. But the illegal part came from the Pandora case, where government funds were diverted through a network on non-governmental organizations to political parties, including Hernandez's 2013 presidential campaign. Money laundering and drug trafficking paid for Hernandez's campaign, allegedly. And Trump pardoned him from a 45-year sentence. Why? Why was he pardoned? Well, Trump claimed, without evidence, that his prosecution had been a setup by the Biden administration and that Hernandez was targeted because he was president of a country where drug cartels operated. Hernandez's trial lasted 3 weeks, and the prosecution is pretty sure, not 100% sure, but like pretty dang sure, that he was involved with over 400 tons of cocaine coming into the US. This decision to pardon him is still racking people's brains because there doesn't seem to be a solid reason why yet. But once again, drugs are winning the war on drugs. Back in Honduras, they're still in the middle of their current election, where the Libre Party's newest candidate, Rishi Moncada, clearly lost. I'm not surprised. Honestly, their last candidate did not do too good. But there is yet to be a clear winner as of taping this episode. The election was held over 2 weeks ago, and it's been a huge mess. The 2 candidates who have near equal chances of winning are Nazray Esfura, and he has Trump support. And then there's also Salvador Nasrallah. As of now, the difference in votes for these 2 is only by 1.36%, with Esfura in the marginal lead. But the vote counts have been flip-flopping day after day, with each party claiming unfair counting. Nasrallah's supporters blame Trump's interference for the sudden spike in votes for Esfura. Esfura's supporters claim faulty voting technology, which actually is happening. A test run exposed deep flaws in the vote counting system. Only 36% of practice ballots were processed. And so now we were all just sitting and waiting, and as soon as the final results come in, we will make sure to let you know. But for now, we're gonna get into the holiday spirit and bake something festive, but with a concerning lack of baking equipment. Hi friends, welcome back to Edible Complex. We are going to make some gingerbread. I wanted to make donuts because it's Hanukkah right now, and I think you're supposed to eat like deep fried food on Hanukkah, but my producer said that burning oil around me just sounds too dangerous. So we're gonna do gingerbread, so Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah as well, but Merry Christmas. First step is, I bet it's something to do with the flour. Let's see. Okay, we're gonna do butter, brown sugar, and molasses. 1 cup of salted butter softened at room temperature. Yes, sir. Also, fun fact, you can leave butter at room temperature for like 2 months before it goes bad. You do not need to keep butter in the darn fridge. Now I gotta beat it, beat it, beat it, beat it. Beat it. Beat it. 1 cup dark brown sugar. Now, as in Lottie Hunter fashion, we do not measure out this ingredients. It's just all eyeballed. I'm going to say 1 cup looks like that. Beat it, beat it. Yeah, that song's gonna be stuck in my head this entire time. Back to beating it. Let's add the molasses. 1/2 cup of molasses, not blackstrap. I don't know what blackstrap means. People eat this. 1/2 cup, 1/2 cup. How much is in here? 12 ounces. That's 1.5 cup. So I need 1/3 of this jar. That's gorgeous. You know what? I think I nailed that. Have y'all ever poured out molasses? That was tranquil. Beat it, beat it. Right? I think that was the perfect amount of molasses. 3 cups of flour. Okay. Okay. It's looking crumbly. Okay, 2.5 teaspoons of ground ginger. 1.5 teaspoons of cinnamon. Nutmeg. How much nutmeg? A pinch. 1/2 teaspoon of baking soda. Yep. 1/2 teaspoon of salt. Yeah. And then guess what we do next? Beat it, beat it. I think this is my secret superpower to just be able to do this. There is gingerbread all over the place. Beat it, beat it. Okay, that molasses smell is sticking. I don't know what molasses is made out of, but it kind of smells like if vinegar ate vinegar. You know? Oh, there's a hole in my flour bag. You know what? Another gripe I have with this baking culture, why do all flour bags just like leak flour? Now this is still wet. What do you mean it's still wet? I'm very upset. I'm not gonna add any more flour after that, or else maybe it's just gonna be too crumbly. Okay, if this isn't crumbly, I don't know what is. Okay, now I'm thinking it's too crumbly. No. You know what we're gonna do? We're gonna add some milk now, and then we're gonna grow from there. 1 to 2 teaspoons of milk is if your dough is a bit crumbly. It said to make it crumbly. Was it not supposed to be crumbly this whole time? I'm gonna have a word with, I don't know who made this. We're just gonna do 1/2 and 1/2. Because you know what, 1/2 and 1/2, it's wonderful. Yeah, I messed this up. I misread the ingredients. I think this is my secret superpower to just be able to do this. Way too crumbly. Yeah, here comes the molasses. Also, something I really like about this segment is, so our editor, right, get this. She bakes. She bakes. I do too, in a sense, but She does it with like measuring cups and stuff. I bake with my heart, babes. And it works out just fine. Yeah, that was all the ingredients that were in there, right? There we go. Now it's not so crumbly. My mixer is fighting for its life. I need to preheat the oven. 350. Bake with your heart, friends. Literally, baking is so made up. Like, it's a science. No, it's not. It's just stuff mixed together and then put in fire boxes. Dough's all done. Time to make frosting. Place powdered sugar in a medium bowl. That is chunky powdered sugar, I tell you what. Combine water, corn syrup, and extract. Yeah. Yep. It's fine. Well, would you look at that? It's actually turning to icing. Look at that. See that? Now that the oven's preheated, we're gonna figure that out. Ugh. Okay, we're gonna use a cupcake tin today. There was like a lot of other steps I'm completely skipping right now with this whole gingerbread stuff. This feels really sticky. I feel like it maybe should have been crumblier. So I'm gonna make these just as big as I want them to be. And yeah. It says make them 1/2 inch thick. That looks 1/2 inch to me. Yeah. All right, it's now a circle. So in the trays, I'm gonna stick them in the oven and we're gonna see you in 8 to 9 minutes. All right, the gingerbread cookies are baked, set, and the icing is made. Look at that. That is a perfect consistency. Also, these turned out like perfect, okay? Let's try them. I'm hoping, like that molasses smelled like, I guess molasses. So I'm not 100% sure if this is, I'm gonna try it. I can taste the molasses and it's tangy. Lesson of the day, molasses is tangy. All right, well, we will see you guys next week. I hope you all have safe travels for the holidays, if you're flying anywhere, or if you're staying wherever you are, have fun with that too. Happy Hanukkah as well, it's also Hanukkah this week. Goodbye.